So Krishna tells Arjuna, better you work, you fight. Don't take someone else's duty, because if Arjuna goes to beg, and if person who is supposed to give alms doesn't give alms and says, Arjuna, hey, get out. Beggars means they should tolerate. But Arjuna, because he's Kshatriya, if he cannot tolerate, he might immediately take out a sword and challenge that person. So Krishna said this is very dangerous. So better you don't beg. It's not good for you. You just fight. So working according to one's nature. See, I'm just going through because we have done these things. And when we work according to one's nature as prescribed in the Vedic scriptures, then there will be purification. Then that means gradually we'll rise above Ichcha and Dvesha. That means attachment and aversion to senses and sense objects. Okay, now we come to today's topic. This is the last section of the third chapter, that is conquering lust, the greatest enemy. We spoke an intro last time. Now there are 7 to 8 verses, 36 to 43. So 8 verses are there. Why is Krishna talking about lust here? He talked about doing your duty, don't try someone else's duty, just work for me. And he's saying all this karma yoga. But immediately he starts talking about lust. Why? Because lust means as soon as there is lust, one thinks, what's in it for me? That's his perspective. Wherever one goes, he's thinking, how will I benefit in this situation? I don't necessarily care for others. Of course, if others can help me be benefited, then they are also part of my sense gratification program. Then there he is my best friend. This was how Ravana also behaved. Who said yes to his demand? Many people said. What example? Kumbhakarna, when he was awakened from his slumber, he told Ravana, I got to know what you're trying to do. This is not right. Kumbhakarna is giving Upadesh. He said, this is not right. But since you're my brother, I will go with you. This is Kumbhakarna's Upadesh. Loyalty, but honesty amongst thieves. Like that. Yeah. Similarly, you will find who else? Marich. Marich told Ravana, you fool, you don't know who Ram is. I have seen the prowess of Ram. When Ram was he was fighting with us. Single-handedly, he destroyed, all of us. Single-handedly. And with one arrow, he shot me 800 miles. 800 miles. He shot me, that means 100 yojanas. With one shot of Ram's arrow, Maricha was taken 100 yojanas away. So that time, Maricha told Ravana, now if I hear anything with starting with Ra, immediately there's a lot of fear which shakes me to my spine. So he said, Ravana, don't even think of going towards Ram. Just be happy with Mandodari and many other fellows, other queens in your palace. Don't even think about Ram. Ravana considered this. He said, oh, thank you, Marich. And he went back. Then Surpanaka saw Ravana coming back. And Surpanaka said, what kind of brother are you? How can you tolerate injustice done to your sister? Don't you know how beautiful Sita is? Again, she described, inch by inch of Sita's beauty. And overcome by lust, Ravana again headed back to Marich. And now Marich thought something special is going to happen, because just now he had given Upadesh, Ravana had gone, and now Ravana is again coming back. So now Marich asked, so Ravana, do you want any further Upadesh? Ravana said, now you keep quiet and simply follow my order. And he said, you have two options. Either you be killed by my hands, or you be killed by Ram's hands. Only two options. So Maricha thought, which is better? Ram's is better? How many of you say better to be killed by Ram's hands? Okay. How many of you say no, it's not better to be killed by Ram's hands? Okay. What, you're raising or playing? Okay. Yeah, so Maricha, he said, yeah, it's better to be killed by the hands of Ram, but because he thought like that, he actually served Ravan. So actually it would be better to be killed by Ravan's hands. In that way he would have served Ram. So he was correct.
Is that why Is that what happened with Vibhishan too? Because like same thing happened with Vibhishan.
I mean, yeah, Vibhishan also, he gave Upadesh, but he left Ravana. Yes, he didn't side with Ravana.
He could have done. So this guy could have done the same thing.
He could have done the same thing. Yeah, Ravana said, if you don't follow my orders, I'll kill you. So then Maricha thought better to be killed by Ram. Yeah.
But as you said, like it's destiny.
You know, give that mic. Mic.
As you described that we are not the doers, so this was God's will that he wanted Ravan to do all this just because he had past karmas to be fulfilled like this, like because you told right now we are not the doers of things that we are doing. So Ravan wasn't the doer; it was God making him do that. Is it?
No, it's not like that. So, say in India, the Uber and Ola, how it works is not like in US. Here you pay first. In India, after you take the ride, you pay. So, say you take Uber, any two destinations from in Bangalore only I know. So Jayanagar to Banchankri, you take an Uber, and now after you get down from the Uber, say you just got down, coolly start walking away. Driver is screaming behind you, hey, what about my money? Now can you turn back and ask him, whose car is it? He'll say, my car. Who drove the car? I drove the car. Now can you say, why should I pay? Your car and you drove it. Why should this other person pay? Can the passenger ask like that? Driver's car, driver drove it. On whose order? Whose desire was it to travel the distance? Yeah, the passengers. So, though we are not the doers, Paramatma is sanctioning whose desire? Jiva's desire, according to his credit available, karma credit.
So whatever we desire, God put that like in the destiny, and then we get it. Like, so
depending on how much you can afford. For example, I can say I desire to live on near Riverside Park, West New York, a costly area. I can desire, and it will remain only a desire because I cannot afford it. But if I can afford it also, yeah, then I have desire. I have the money to put it to fulfill my desire. Then I can stay there also. So similarly, if I have enough pious credit, and if I desire something, then Krishna sees, okay, this fellow is desiring, karma allows, okay, sanction. Now, if that is sanctioned, Prakriti will only arrange it. That makes sense? Okay. So, yeah, so what we were discussing before this?
regarding killed by Ravan versus killed by Lord.
Now, before that also? Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay. Mike, you have? You need Mike to ask question.
So, Prabhuji, my question is that isn't it better to be killed by Lord Ram any day over being killed by Ravana? Because when you get killed by Lord Ram, you attain moksha and Sadgati, but getting killed by Ravan, you do not know what's going to
So you
happen
are
to you.
saying, now Marich, he helped, now leave moksha. Even the Gyanis attain moksha.
Okay.
We don't go for moksha. So now think of as yourself as a devotee of Ram.
Okay.
Now when you think like that, can you even tolerate seeing your mother Sita being abducted by someone?
No.
This is how devotees feel. Devotees don't think what about moksha.
No.
It's better to be killed by Ram, so I get moksha. Wow, very nice. Even Sita gets kidnapped by Ram, no problem.
Okay.
Devotees don't think like that.
Okay.
It's very selfish desire. That only Gyanis think like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyway, coming back. So I was talking about one concept because of which I was taking the examples. Yeah. No, before that. Before taking examples, I was taking two examples of. Oh yes, I was telling about. Sometimes we prefer to be around people who will say yes to our desires. I give you an example of Kamsa and Ravana, and there are also examples who didn't say yes to Ravana. That's Vibhishan. Immediately Vibhishan left. So anyway, lust means one wants to, wherever he goes, he wants his desires to happen. That means he sees opportunity for his sense gratification in every situation. That is called as lust. And epitome of lust is called as sex desire. But in a broad definition, lust means how I can enjoy. And this lust is the personification of this lust is Ravana. So Ram Navami is day after tomorrow. So it's a good coincidence of these concepts. Ravana is the personification of lust or enjoying mentality, whereas Hanuman is the personification of service attitude, the opposite. So Ravana represents lust, whereas Hanuman represents love. So now in this chapter, in 36th verse, this also we discussed last time, but we'll just. Yeah, can you please repeat? Arjuna vacha athakena prayoktoyam papam charati purushah anichannapi vashneya baladiva niyojitah. Can someone read? You have the mic? Read it. Yeah. Anyone? Yeah. Who has the mic?
Arjun said, O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force?
Yeah. Arjuna is asking, sometimes intelligence knows this is right and that is wrong, but still there is a force which is pushing us towards the wrong direction. Being the modern generation, we all have this experience where we are pushed in the wrong direction. Of course, if the intelligence itself is corrupt, then we don't even know what is wrong direction, what is right direction. That's even a bigger problem. So Arjuna is asking a very important question. We'll go to the next verse. Okay. Now Krishna speaks. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajo Guna Samudbhavaha Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyenam Yhavairinam. One with the mic.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, It is lust only, Arjun, which is born of
Read a little of purport also.
When a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust. In association with the mode of passion, or in other words, the sense of love of God, becomes transformed into lust, as milk in contact with sour tamarind is transferred into yogurt. Then again, when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath. Wrath is transformed into illusion, and illusion continues the material existence. Therefore, lust is the greatest enemy of the living entity, and it is lust only which induces the pure living entity to remain entangled in the material world. Wrath is the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. These modes exhibit themselves as wrath and other corollaries. If, therefore, the mode of passion, instead of being degraded into the mode of ignorance, is elevated to the mode of goodness by the prescribed method of living and acting, then one can be saved from the degradation of wrath by spiritual attachment. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expanded himself.
So here one thing is given, that love and lust is like two things but in opposite direction. Vector. So magnitude is same, lust and love, but the direction is different. So in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about the tree, Ashwattham Prahuravyayam, he says. The Ashwatha tree, which is in the spiritual world, that tree represents the spiritual world, which is upright. But the material world is the reflection of the tree, which is upside down. So in the spiritual world, love is the topmost. In the material world, that love becomes lust, and that takes the bottommost position. When we come to 15th chapter, we'll discuss further about it. But at the same time, here Prabhupada says the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust. There's a strong enjoying mentality. Why? Because actually there's a need to be loved and to love. This is need of the soul. Why? Because by nature soul is anandamaya bhyasat, Vedanta Sutra says. That means it is bliss seeking. No one can say, let me get away, I don't want any happiness. So therefore, the other systems of philosophy where they talk about nirvana, that means voidism, nirvana, or even mayavad, which is meaning we all become God. This is all improper philosophies because there is no love. Can you fall in love with yourself? No, unless you are highly egocentric. You cannot fall in love with yourself. You need another person, isn't it? So, therefore, lust is love which is degraded, perverted. Perverted love is lust. That's what is being said. Oh. Let me see who it is. Hare Krishna, Nitesh Prabhu, can you mute? Okay, thank you. Okay. So now when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath. So now you have lust as the problem, main problem, enjoying mentality. Now when you satisfy lust, what happens? Greed. Because if you satisfy the desire, you want more of it. Again, if you satisfy, you want even more of it. Now when lust is not satisfied, it turns into anger. Now when we keep satisfying, then it also leads to pride, isn't it? That I have done so many accomplishments in my name. And then anger also turns into, sometimes it turns into envy also. Why him? Why not me? Envy means you want to pull the other person down. So from lust, all other anarthas also come as a result. Like that Prabhupada saying. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Can someone read this? This inquiry is the. This inquiry means what? What Arjuna inquired in the previous verse. Can you want to read? Loudly and clearly.
This inquiry is the beginning of the Vedanta Sutras,
Correct.
wherein it is said,
Atato Brahma
Atato,
Jignasa.
okay, one should inquire into the Supreme, and the Supreme is defined in Srimad Bhagavatam as Janmadi Asya
Yato
Yato,
Anvayad Itaratascha.
or the origin of everything is the Supreme Brahman. Therefore, the origin of lust is also in the Supreme. If, therefore, lust is transformed into love for the Supreme, or transformed into Krishna, consciousness,
Krishna consciousness.
okay, or in other words, desiring everything for Krishna, then both lust and wrath can be spiritualized.
Yeah. That means a secret is revealed here by Prabhupada. Prabhupada is saying actually you can convert your lust back into love. How? Lust means one is thinking how I can enjoy. Now instead of thinking how I can enjoy, make Krishna the center of enjoyment. Now one can think how can I please Krishna even more. So now for example here we have service, like we have cook for the deities. So initially when we are cooking, we just somehow cook. Newly when we start cooking, somehow just cook something and keep. But later on we think, okay, how can I please Krishna even more? Then we make some special type of cake, some special type of kheer. We try to see what pleases Krishna more. So more and more if we keep thinking, how can I please Krishna, in what way, more and more our lust is being converted into love. Love is the original platform. The degraded form of love is lust. But we can convert it back to love by making Krishna the center of enjoyment. That's what is being said. So Prabhupada gives the example of Hanuman. Hanuman did so much for Ram, and he wanted to find out where Sita was, but he did a token thing also for Lord Ram. What was it? He set Lanka into fire and came. As his token service for Lord Ram. Extra. Isn't it? So that means he was very inspired to do as much as possible for Ram. Whereas, how did he control his anger? He showed his anger towards those who blaspheme God. how Ravana kidnapped Sita, so he set Lanka into fire. Then he also went side by side with Ram to fight the war, isn't it? So like that he converted lust and anger both into love. Yeah. Dhumena vanir. Is it Hindi one? This thing comes down. Yeah. Is it okay? Dhumena vyate vanir. यथादर्शो मलेन च यतोल्बेनावृतो गर्भस् तथा तेनेदमावृतम्. So this verse explains how there are different degrees of lust. Quickly.
As fire is covered by smoke, as mirror is covered by dust, or as an embryo is covered by womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of this lust.
As fire is covered with smoke means even though there is smoke, fire still continues. Mirror covered by dust means even though sometimes with dust you don't get the proper image, it's distorted image, but you still understand it's a mirror. And so it's covered to a greater degree. An embryo covered by the womb, you cannot even see the embryo, isn't it? So example for fire covered by smoke is humans. That means even though we have lust in the heart, we can purify it by chanting of Hare Krishna mantra, and we can go back to spiritual world. We can attain perfection of life. Whereas the animals, birds and beasts are compared to the level with mirror being covered by dust, where the lust is even more deeper, more thick, because of which they cannot attain self-realization. And trees are even more covered, and therefore they are even stationary. Therefore, you know that story of Manigriva and Alakuver, where they were presenting their naked bodies to Narada, and Narada cursed them to become trees. Isn't it? Like that. So people who are too lusty, who can create havoc and trouble in society, they'll become trees next life, so that they will not move around. And they don't like to wear clothes anyway. So, see this 30, I think 36 to 40, 37 to 40, what Krishna is explaining to Arjuna is the degradation caused by lust. See, thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So how do you know if something is based on lust or love? Desires based on lust are never satisfying. That means even if you satisfy, even if you fulfill them, one wants to do it more. Because it is not satisfying. For example, if you enjoy one gulab jamun, it's really little difficult to say no. You will want one more. And even if you have had 10, you will say no for now, but tomorrow again you will want. Again the mind will say, gulab jamun was so nice yesterday. Why? Because it is based on enjoying mentality. But one which is based on love, it is satisfying to the heart. Completely satisfying to the heart. Yeah. It's pretty strong. Huh? I hope you can. Yeah, can someone read? Who has the mic?
It is said in the Manusmriti that lust cannot be satisfied by any amount of sense enjoyment. Just as fire is never extinguished by a constant supply of fuel, in the material world the center of all activities is sex, and thus this material world is called Maitunya Agara, or the shackles of sex life. In the ordinary prison house, criminals are kept within bars. Similarly, the criminals who are disobedient to the laws of the Lord are shackled by sex life. Advancement of material civilization on the basis of sense gratification means increasing the duration of the material existence of a living entity. Therefore, this lust is the symbol of ignorance by which the living entity is kept within the material world. While one enjoys sense gratification, it may be that there is some feeling of happiness, but actually that so-called feeling of happiness is the ultimate enemy of the sense enjoyer.
So lust agitates the mind, love pacifies the mind. Lust increases desire for more and more, whereas love cools down the mind. So in the Old Testament, there's a story called where the two characters, Samson and Delilah. You've heard of this? Anyone? You've heard? No? Okay. So Samson was a great warrior, entrusted by the god to fulfill a particular mission, and he was so strong. Alone, he would fight with thousands and thousands of soldiers of the opposite army. He was so strong. So the opposite army, they didn't know what to do. They wanted to find out what is the secret of his strength. At that time, they appointed one lady, because they understood for a man, lady is the weakness. It is an open secret. So now when they appointed this lady, she went to this Samson. Samson is a huge, strong warrior, but in front of the lady, he was like a pet animal. Now when this Delilah came, her name was Delilah, by the way. When Delilah came in front of Samson, she showed some gestures of attraction towards him. So first night they spent together, and finally she asked, "So handsome, what is the secret behind your strength?" But Samson didn't release the secret. He said, "No, that I cannot tell you. You ask me anything else, I can tell you, but that I cannot." So the second night, again they spent night together. Again she asked, "So what is the secret behind your strength?" He didn't say it. And the third night, she asked, "What is the secret behind your strength?" That time he said, "Actually, my strength is in my long hair." And as he slept, she immediately took scissors and cut off the hair. And immediately the next day he was conquered. So that great warrior whom no one could conquer, one lady could conquer, isn't it? So what is the meaning or purport of this incident is, as soon as there is lust, one becomes weak. And that lust is for example, in face of attachment, Arjuna became weak. Broadly speaking, lust means how I can enjoy, isn't it? Now Arjuna, who is such a strong warrior, even Shiva was impressed with Arjuna's strength. But when he saw his own cousins and family members, that Arjuna, his bow Gandiva was slipping from hand. He became weak. In face of lust, one becomes weak. Similarly, we will find sometimes we have temptations, and in the face of those temptations, one becomes weak, isn't it? Sometimes on YouTube a pop-up will come, isn't it? No one is holding your hand and clicking that pop-up, isn't it? But the weak mind goes for it. Similarly, this Bhag Milka Bhag, that one movie was released. So that first time when he went for Olympics, because he engaged in some illicit affair before the Olympic game, next day he could not perform. So therefore in Olympics also they have a rule. One cannot face any temptation just before, some 2-3 years or 4 years before Olympic game. Why? Because focus is lost in face of temptation. Now why do you think Krishna is talking about temptation and lust to Arjuna? Arjuna has to fight a great battle, and Krishna is telling Arjuna, this lust is the greatest enemy. And that lust is, if one is thinking or one has the mentality of how I can enjoy, immediately he is defeated. For some people, drinking is a problem. That's their temptation, addiction. For some people, smoking is the problem. For some people, opposite sex is the problem. For some people, eating is the problem, like really a problem. For some people, gadgets is the problem. For some people, money is the problem. And whatever problem is there, Maya knows exactly what our problem is, what our weakness is. And therefore, you'll find in the next verse what Krishna says. Where is lust present? He says. Yeah. Can someone read? Okay, I'll read. Indriyani manobuddhir asyadhisthana muchyate etair vimohayat yesha jnanamavritya dehinam. Yeah, can someone read the translation?
The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him.
Yeah, and bewilders him. So Arjuna knew. See, he didn't by mistake happen to be in Kurukshetra at the time of battle about to begin. It's not by chance. Oh, I came to the wrong place. They all had prepared for the battle when they came. But when he saw the temptation, he became weak. Isn't it? So therefore, what happens? Lust is present in three places. See, at least for Indian terrorists, when we say Indian terrorists are present in three places, Pakistan and this area, at least outside India, isn't it? For us, the lust is in our own senses, our own mind, our own intelligence. That means intelligence itself can get corrupted. If intelligence itself is get corrupted, in second chapter, Krishna said, what was it? Krodha bhavati sammoha, sammoha smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramshat buddhi nashat pranashyati. When intelligence is destroyed, everything is destroyed. Isn't it? So lust is present in these three places, and through lust, it covers the living entity knowledge, living entity's knowledge, and bewilders the living entity. Then now he doesn't know what is right, what is wrong, and he simply succumbs to bad habits. Isn't it? Yeah. So this is verse 40, but now the time is already up. So what we'll do, we'll continue this next time. But this is again, yeah.
I have a question.
Okay. Maybe I'll just wind up this class here so that they can have prasadam. Then you can ask questions.
Okay.
So if you go to chapter 3, I think that verses are till 43. That means three more verses just on lust. So next time what we'll do, we'll just read through these verses, and we'll Krishna gives, he doesn't just say, okay, lust is a problem, Hari bol, Arjuna, now you manage on your own. He says lust is a problem, and what is the solution, he gives. How do you overcome lust, he says. And of course, then Bhagavad Gita doesn't stop there. For that, 4 chapters is required. That's transcendental knowledge. So, all of you, again, I request, if you wish, you can take prasadam and come to this restaurant area, and you can ask any questions or share your reflection here. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. And you also had a question.